everybody, and welcome into HCAM Sports Talk Live. I am your host, Tom Nappy, and joining us on the show today, we got Kevin Stone with us, Bob Hamilton behind the scenes running the very advanced technical end of the program. We'll have Jared Keene joining us as well, or at least expected to join us. We'll have to wait and see. But Andy Barron also expected to join us as well in the next few minutes. But until then, Kevin, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you? It's nice to have some day baseball on.
Absolutely. And isn't it the first game that they have on YouTube? It's like a YouTube exclusive.
It's so for a sport that desperately needs fans, how dumb is this idea?
I know. I mean, I can understand it having it like out of market live on YouTube so everyone can watch it while they're at work or something, but exclusively, I'm not a big fan of that. And I know the internet streaming is becoming huge, and you could actually, load up the YouTube app on your smart TV and stream it that way. But I don't know. I mean, I guess YouTube paid a lot of money for this package, and I know Amazon paid the NFL a lot of money. They'll have a streaming deal, I think, starting in 2 seasons or something like that, where there'll be games. Thursday Night Football, actually, I believe, will be exclusively on Amazon Prime, which I don't know if that's free or not. Haven't even looked into it yet. But if it's not, that is really unfortunate, because paying for Amazon Prime just for Thursday Night Football, and if you only watch your team maybe one game a year, I just really hope it's not a subscription service. It's like we pay all this money for cable, but then you got to get all these streaming services.
Yeah, and the crazy thing too is, like you said, I get it. Like, I get it. The YouTube thing it's becoming huge, but how old is half the baseball audience? How many people that are watching the Red Sox can actually figure out how to go on YouTube and watch the game? You know what I mean? So it's just, for that sport, it is not the right demographic.
Right. I really don't think it is. And by the way, for those of you that are confused about how to get the game and YouTube and all that, you can go right to MLB.com, and it's right on the homepage. So you can check out the Red Sox there. But of course, have that in the background of our show, because our show is more important. Right now, the Sox are up 9-1, for those of you wondering. So they're having a nice day. They had a nice walk-off win yesterday as well. I don't know if you caught that, but I love how they brought the rule where after the 10th inning, they automatically put a runner on second. I think it's great. It'll speed up the games. I don't think anybody desires a 16 to 18 inning baseball game, and I think this will dramatically cut that down. So I really do like that rule.
No, I completely agree. The only ironic thing is, last night was still a 4.5-hour game. So I love the idea of it, but I think you have to have the runner start on first, because on second, it's just too easy to score. It prolonged the game last night. But I love the concept. I just think you're going to have them start at first. Again, it was 4.5 hours last night.
They needed something, but, the way those two teams were hitting, I mean, they started actually hitting in extra innings, but for a while there, it was kind of a lull in the offensive action. If you had the runner on first, I mean, I guess there was a couple circumstances they would have drove them in, but I think it does make it exciting, though, because it's like you're starting off and there's already a runner in scoring position. And you're going to want to have your good pitchers out there that can pitch through those situations, because if you bring in some guy with, an 8 ERA or something like that, chances are he's going to give up a sacrifice and, one hit, bam, game over. So it's interesting. And, maybe as time goes on, they'll say, all right, maybe we should try that first. But I have no problem with them experimenting a little bit and seeing like what the best method is. I think this is a great start. But if they discover, hey, maybe let's put the runner on first instead. But I don't know. There's something about a runner starting in scoring position that automatically just makes it exciting. you're intrigued by it. And by the way, we do want to invite
No,
people to.
I'm with you. And
Oh, go ahead. I think
no, sorry, I think it's a delay, but no, I was just gonna say I'm with you. I'm with you in terms of them trying something. At this point, I'll watch anything as long as it speeds the game up. So I'm definitely with you in terms of the fact that they're trying something at the very least.
Yes, they desperately needed to, because how many weeknights is there a 16, 18 inning game? And you look at the stadium back in the days when we had full stadiums, that 90% of the fans have already left because they got work the next morning. They can't stay there till 2 a.m. for an 18 inning game. At least this way, there's a very good chance that it won't go 18 innings with the runner in scoring position. But you could also get one of those games that goes back and forth where both teams keep getting a run, but that's at least more exciting than both teams getting no runs for like 7 straight innings. So
I agree.
I'll take it. And Bob just commented the longest ball game was Pawtucket Red Sox, 8 hour, 25 minutes. I believe that was the longest minor league game. There might have been a major league game that surpassed that. I'm not sure. But I know that is certainly one of the longest games in history. It was against
and how you doing, guys? So glad to be here.
Yes, Andy Barron's here. Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, I was a little late, but 40 years is this year. The longest game in the history of baseball, that 33 inning game in Pawtucket. And they played till I think like 5 o'clock in the morning. Wade Boggs and Cal Ripken played in that game. That, I don't know if that's ever going to be duplicated again, honestly.
So
I mean, that is just unbelievable.
Truthfully, I hope not.
No, and you know what? They were playing till like 5 in the morning, and like they didn't have any limitations back then, guys. So I mean, but that is just truly remarkable. I mean, to go 40 years, and we hope that nothing like that happens again, because that's like literally 3 games in one. I mean, it's just unreal.
What I was gonna say, 8 hours 25 minutes isn't really that bad for a 33 inning game.
Well, compared to the World Series, what was it? Game 4 against the Dodgers and the Sox went almost 8 hours.
Yeah.
That is just ridiculous. There is no reason a game should take that long. I mean, there's just no reason.
And I guess if it's a World Series game, you could kind of get away with it because, I mean, obviously those are the most exciting games of the year. And that game was super exciting between the Sox Dodgers because they broke tie. Both teams broke ties, I think, a couple times in extra innings in that game. So it was at least pretty exciting. But during the season, to have a game like that, no. It's a 162 game season. And, you're playing your 25th game of the year and you got a 17 inning game that's taking 6 hours. No thanks. Not into that.
Right.
That's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, who's really going to watch all that? I mean, I have trouble, even trying to watch a 2.5 hour game, never mind a 6 hour game. I mean, the games are too long. That's just, right. I know people love baseball and I get it. It's America's pastime. We cannot be having these long games. It's just, they're crazy to think if they don't need to change anything, because people are going to start losing interest. I mean, if they keep, especially
they already have.
There you go, Tom. Exactly. And especially in April, it's still cold out. I mean, imagine sitting through a game like that when it's like 30 degrees like at night. I mean, who's going to want to stay there for that? I mean,
no. Yeah, exactly.
Not happening.
No, I mean, in the playoffs, I don't know if you should have this rule with a runner on second. Maybe you should have to work for everything. And that's an interesting talking point. I mean, should we have this rule in the playoffs where the runner's starting on second? I don't even know if baseball does or not. I'll have to look into that. But I think in the postseason, I don't know. I think in the postseason, maybe you shouldn't, or maybe you should. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No. I think there's something about playoff baseball where every single pitch genuinely matters. Like you're actually watching every pitch and caring about it. Like you said, compared to a game in April where, you could care less after 10 innings. So, no, I think playoff baseball, you have to keep it as simple as you can.
Right. As pure as you can. And
yeah,
Bob just dug up an interesting fact. The shortest game in the history of baseball was the New York Giants against the Philadelphia Phillies back in 1919. The game lasted only 51 minutes and was won by the New York Giants 6-1. New York Giants pitcher Jesse Barnes threw a complete game. Wow. Wouldn't that be nice if, like, there was one night there was like a 51-minute game or an hour game?
It's literally impossible. I don't know.
I was just going to say, I wish every game we covered was 51 minutes. That'd be a dream.
Oh, absolutely.
Bob throwing out all these facts, man. He's so knowledgeable, really. I mean,
he is. He's a genius. And well, you know, the thing back then too, and Bob brings up this point, no commercials. And I was just about to say, even in the 50s, 60s, they had commercials, but the breaks were a lot shorter. Okay. And I think it was like the networks back then, if I'm not mistaken, they used to go along more with the game. It wasn't the networks controlling the game and saying, hey, we have to get all these commercials in. Now a phone call's made and saying, hey, we got to get all these commercials in. And, you know, there's more commercials than there used to be. And I know they have to pay those bills, but I think the networks have a lot more control over how long the commercial breaks are than they used to. So I think that's part of the reason as well. But speaking of baseball, we'll have high school spring baseball coming up along with softball and all the spring sports. Believe it or not, less than a month away. As far the TVL, I believe they have their first games on May 5th, which is, I believe, a Monday. So we're less than a month away from spring sports, and we have a couple more weeks left of the fall 2 sports. Everything running smooth as silk so far, knock on wood. Hopefully it keeps going. And we'll have a whole lot of spring coverage for you of your Hopkinton Hillers on HCAM, of course. But Kevin, I'm curious, you've been to any games lately? You've been out to any football games this past weekend?
Yeah, I was actually at, where was I? I can't remember. But yeah, we've been doing stuff for both the Metrowest and it all blends together at this point. You know that. Yeah, doing stuff for the Metrowest and New England Football Journal. I'll be at Natick and Wellesley on Friday night. Should be a good one as always. And yeah, we've and as for you guys as well, any highlights we get, we'll be posting on our YouTube page. So for parents and guardians and fans of Hopkinton, you know, send us some stuff our way as well. We'll post it on YouTube. But I think we talked about this last time. It's amazing how normal the football season has actually been, just in terms of the play on the field. Once the game starts, you know, even if it is 65 degrees outside, it feels like a normal, you know, high school football season. At least to me, it has. Now, granted, you know, you have the minimal fans and there's not that true atmosphere, but in terms of the play on the field and the intensity on the sidelines, you really can't say it's been any different than a normal high school season.
I'll tell you what, I have absolutely loved covering football this spring. Not only because the weather's been great, but I've had nothing but close games. We've been doing, we did a Hillers freshman game. We did, I think, 3 JV games, and we had our first varsity game. Every single one of them was a battle that went down to the end, and it was a close game. This past Saturday, Hopkinton Medfield, one of the best games I've ever had the chance to broadcast. That it was an unbelievable battle. And by the way, we'll have highlights later in the show. Towards the end of the show, we'll have the highlights from that game. We have a nice, it's like a 9.5-minute highlight package. And I was trying to trim it down even more, but so much stuff happened in that game, it was necessary. So we'll have those highlights for you. Hopkinton Medfield from this past Saturday. Later in the show, it was an unbelievable game. And I think there was about 6 lead changes, 3 of which took place in the last 3 minutes and 48 seconds, I think it was. It was crazy and so much fun. And the atmosphere was good. Obviously, typically a Hopkinton Medfield game would have absolutely packed stands. We couldn't have that this time as there is limitations. But I think a lot of people tune in. A lot of people are enjoying it. And there's been some really good games across the TVL, across the Hockomock. I understand Milford and Franklin just played a great close battle.
Overtime.
And
Yeah.
really all around the state, because it's all division rivals. And it's all the teams that you're most familiar with. And all these great rivalries that you always have a close game with. I think it's been awesome.
Yeah, and we talked about this, if not last week, then a few weeks ago, about the rivalries and the fact that even if there aren't packed stands, just seeing that other uniform across the field, there's a flip that every kid switches. And they're still, flipping that switch every week because, like you said, the intensity has been there. I just remembered I was at Marlboro, Tantascwa last Friday, double overtime game. It felt like it was a state championship,
Right.
and those two teams do not like each other. So I couldn't agree more, just in terms of the rivalries and that emotion on the field is still there. And that's really impressive. And I think that speaks a lot to the coaching around here as well, to get kids, all on the same page and buying in, even though there's no state championships or anything like that. Every week has been taken, like it's their last game of the year.
Well, I think that's a great point you made, Kevin. And I also think, too, something that I've picked up on, I think this woke a lot of people up that like, hey, we can't be taking these things for granted every more. And I know I did too before this whole pandemic happened. You football's in the fall, basketball's in the winter. Well, that didn't happen this year. And I'm really thinking that a lot of these athletes, coaches, even people like us in the media, we took this all for granted. Now we realize, hey, something like this can happen. Like seasons can be disrupted. Things that we never in a million years thought could happen can happen. Now I think going forward, and God forbid, we hope nothing like this ever happens again, but we can do it now. There's no excuses. Okay. You can play football in the spring. It may not be ideal, but you can do it. You could play soccer in the spring. It may not be ideal, but you can do it. And I think that's one thing that we've learned. This has been a learning experience throughout the country, maybe even the world, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure in many different situations they learned a lot about alternatives.
Yes.
With just about anything, really. But I have to say, the weather lately, it has seemed even more closer to football weather than baseball weather.
It really has.
Yeah.
And I've really liked it. I've loved having football right now. It's like the NFL ends, the Super Bowl ends, and bam, you got high school football. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, obviously it'll have to be talked about with the MIAA, but, what if there is a spring league for kids that don't have spring sports now, for high school teams to either build up their numbers, for the smaller schools or for the actual contenders to get kids out and working toward the season even sooner. So I'll be curious to see if something like that develops as well out of this.
That's a great point, Kevin. I think it's on the table, really, if you really think about it, because it has worked. So maybe you go like this way. Maybe maybe have a freshman league. Maybe have a sophomore league. Maybe the kids that couldn't quite get onto the varsity team, maybe give them an alternative. Hey, let's play a 5-game schedule in the spring. Get you some experience before moving up to the varsity level.
Yeah, it could be kind of like a development league.
Sure. And you just play the teams in your league. You play 5 games, and then you're done. And then you get ready for the fall. Again, I mean, I don't know if it will happen, but I think going forward, you are going to see a lot of changes going forward. I think, we've seen so many happen. And believe me, I think a lot of us thought this fall too, oh, I don't know about this. And granted, the weather has been great. We've really lucked out. There's no doubt about it, because there's been some horrible spring weather up here in the past. But no, I can tell you, when we were doing our show on Saturday, you look out the window, sunny sky for Milford Franklin, just like a typical Saturday afternoon game. And the competition has been phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. I think rivalries bring the best out of the athletes too, because they know, hey, that uniform says Hopkinton, that uniform says Medfield. It's still a rivalry. No matter if you're playing at 1:00 on a Saturday afternoon, or I mean, there's been games that have been played on Mondays and Tuesdays because teams had to move games. That's just the way it's been.
Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, it is a little weird
Oh, yeah.
trying to get into football mode. I'm in it now for the most part, but like at
Oh
first,
yeah.
it was a
Yep.
little weird because it's like we had basketball and hockey kind of in the typical time that we have it. So that was pretty normal. And, everything else for the most part was in the typical time that we have it. But then you got to go reach way back into football mode. So it was a little different than that. And, coming up, we'll be hopping right into baseball. The spring season, pretty much fall 2 ends. You have your 2 weeks of practices, and then you're in spring season. So there won't be a lot of transition time there either. But between, and obviously not every March and April is as nice as this one has been. So, sometimes, if there was a lot of snow coming down and snowstorms and all that stuff, it could be a real tall task to have this football type of thing going. But I think it's been great. And I think people are really into the games too. And at least from my experience at the Hopkinton games, the fans are into it. The ones that are able to attend, they're loving it. So, and the kids are loving it. Every game, I feel like they are playing like this is a state championship game. That Hopkinton Medfield game, that felt like a playoff game.
Oh yeah, I saw the final score. It was great, and I think the other thing you're seeing too is that all the schools have come together. There's been a lot of schools that haven't been able to play on the grass fields. Schools like Milford, they've opened up and let other teams come in and play when they can. You've seen that all over the place too, just because grass fields would still be very difficult to play on, even though we haven't gotten a lot of rain. It still is a challenge,
right?
So that's the other thing too that I've seen come out of this. It's been great all around, and we got about 2 weeks left, and then right into spring.
Absolutely. And speaking of high school football, our high school football coverage continues this Friday on HCAM with another great TVL large rivalry. We'll have the Westwood Wolverines taking on the Hopkinton Hillers. And we do want to let you know that game has been moved up to a 6 p.m. start time. It was originally scheduled for 7. It's been moved up to a 6 p.m. kickoff. And we have not got the official word yet, but it's looking like they're going to do the senior festivities prior to the warm-ups at 5 p.m. So 5 p.m., they'll have the senior night festivities, and then at 6 p.m., the kickoff, and we'll be up and running for the senior night festivities at 5 p.m. We'll have the ceremony for you, and then, of course, we'll have the game for you starting at 6 p.m., but Hopkinton Westwood this Friday night. And then their last game is a home game as well. On the 16th, they'll be taking on Norwood. That'll be the final game of the season. We'll, of course, have that game for you on HCAM as well. And that game has also been moved up to a 6 p.m. start time from the original 7 o'clock start time. So 2 more big varsity games coming at you. And based on the history of Hopkinton and Westwood, I think we're going to be in store for a great game on Friday, so I'm looking forward to it. But we do have the Red Sox in action and the Celtics in action and the Bruins in action. But honestly, guys, I mean, I've been following them a little bit, watching some games here and there, but I just can't get into them yet. I don't know how you guys feel.
But with all the teams are just like, because the Celtics are horrible.
I mean, I've been to the Bruins more than anything. The Celtics are 25 and 26. They've been playing horrible. They just don't look good. That I haven't been able to get into. I'm starting to get into the Red Sox a little bit more because they at least beat Tampa a couple times, and they're winning big today. So it looks like they'll be 3-3 after today. But after the 0-3 start, I was like, man, they better come back strong against Tampa, or people are going to tune out real quick. I think right now it's early enough to where if you start winning, you get people back into it. But that 0-3 start, that was not a good start for the Red Sox, especially the way those games went. But, hey, right now, they're beating the defending American League champions. So I think it's going to draw people back into them. I'm certainly paying a little bit more attention than I used to. How you guys feeling about this Red Sox team? I still don't think they're really going anywhere. I don't think they have enough in the starting rotation. I think they have a little more than last year in the bullpen. They took a slight step up, but I still don't think they have enough. And obviously, offensively, they lost some big pieces in the last couple of years between Mookie Betts and Jackie Bradley Jr. They're not as exciting of a team as they used to be. I am worried about their offense. This game, I can't complain. They're up 9-1, but I don't think they have enough. I think they're going to be right around a 500 team. How are you guys feeling about this Red Sox team this year?
Andy, I'll let you go first because I don't want to rip them yet.
Well, first and foremost, there's absolutely no excuse for the way they started the season, losing 3 games to Baltimore. It's unacceptable, period. I mean, opening up like that, they were completely outplayed, and they have played better against Tampa. No question about it. They've played better. But I think you're going to see a lot of this roller coaster type of rides this year. I think Tom said it best. I mean, what really gets you excited about this Red Sox team? I can't think of anything. You know, and I know I'm going back, you know, to like to 2004 and pre those years, but you knew these players, Manny, Ortiz, Pedro. That's all you needed to say. Varitek, you know, Schilling, and you knew what we were talking about. There's just nobody that gets me excited on this team.
Right.
I'm sorry. It's just a fact. I don't get excited over Chris Sale. I don't get excited.
Maybe JD Martinez, but that's about it.
Maybe. He's a good player, very good player.
Nope.
But he doesn't, you got to grab me. You got to get me something. And this is a problem I think that baseball in general has. Listen, the players promoted the sport back in the 80s and the 90s, 2000s. The players did it. Now I don't think the league lets them do it. And that's a part of the problem. You need to get me interested because right now I'm not. And maybe it's just me, maybe because I've gotten older and whatnot. But I think it's like that in sports in general, outside maybe of the NFL. I mean, who is that guy in baseball that draws you in? Is it Puig? Is it Trout? No, they don't do it. They don't do it. The only one that I would think of, and I don't even know if I'm right on this, Madison Bumgarner. Like, I just think he's got that kind of that edge, that snarl in him. But other than that, I mean, Bryce Harper, really? This doesn't do it.
I feel like Trout would if he was on a good team.
But they don't promote him. They don't let the players do it. I just think the game has an identity problem. And that's just, again, that's just my opinion. I'm just not excited about this Red Sox team. Maybe they might be good. I don't know, but it's still way too early to tell.
So there are so many different ways I want to go with this. But to your point, first of all, they don't promote anybody anymore. But the one guy that I do want to watch, if I see or hear he's on TV, right now it's Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if you guys saw what he did on Sunday night. I was watching the game live. Don't ask me why. I was watching ESPN. But to see him throw 100 in the top of the first and hit a ball 450 feet in the bottom of the first, he continues to be allowed to pitch and hit. He's the most interesting player I've seen since I was a kid in the mid-90s, I think. That's incredible what he can do.
Oh, yeah, and I think there's something extra intriguing about a guy that can pitch and hit.
Right.
Yeah.
And he should probably be in the National League, but there's something intriguing about a player like that. And I think his style is so different that, yeah, maybe that is a guy that people will tune in for. But then again, he going to get he's on the Angels, right? So is he going to?
No, yeah. So
is he going to get lost out there with that horrible Angels team? If they start doing bad. But I think he's an interesting player. I think he's more interesting than 99.9% of the league. But is that a guy that's going to draw the casual fan back to the game? And I think that's the problem with baseball. They can't get those casual fans back.
That's such a great point, Tom. Another player I can think of too, Fernando Tatis Jr. Phenomenal player.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible player. But you made just a great point. The casual fans, they're not coming back. See, the NFL can get casual fans because it's easy to follow. You got one game a week. You are asking people to commit 3 to 4 hours a night to watch a game. That's not going to happen. People have lives. They have jobs. I mean, this is some of the things that I'm getting at, and it's a problem, and it's a huge problem. And I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that's just what I'm seeing. And let me tell you something. We got a CBA coming up here. And after what the players and the man and everything they did last year, they couldn't even agree to a 60-game season. if there's a strike coming up, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what's going to happen. I mean, would just devastate this game. People aren't going to come back if that happens.
It certainly would. And we'll get to that in a minute. But Kevin, I know you had a point.
No, I just wanted to go back to, in terms of popular players, Tatis and Shohei for me, those are the two. But in terms of getting invested in the Red Sox, so I'm a bit biased. I gave tours at Fenway in the summer of 2019, and I gotta say, it almost ruined my love of Fenway. Just because, you said you kind of saw the crowd starting not to show up even back then. And again, that was 2 years ago now. People were already starting to check out. And I could see that on a daily basis. But now, if you look at that lineup, I'm a fantasy guy and a DraftKings guy, so I'll still follow the sport. But at this point, I'd rather watch a neutral site or an out-of-market game than the Red Sox. Like last night, it was really nice again to have the Red Sox, the Celtics, and the Bruins all on at once. But then you look around and they all sucked. It was like living in 1999. It was like being in 1999 or 2000 again. So none of those teams are worth watching right now. But we're all going to watch because they're on. And a year ago, we didn't have that option. So,
well, I got news for you. We're back in 90s mode. Tom Brady stole all the championship spirit away from the Boston area. So
right. So they're going to get lucky in terms of the fact that people will watch. I think just because, after last year, we would have killed to have live sports on right now. So they'll still get viewers, and it'll probably be a lot of old people. But they'll get lucky and they'll have people watching until the Bruins or Celtics are, going on a playoff run, if they make the playoffs.
Well, you got a big Celtics-Knicks matchup tonight. Two teams that are 25 and 26. I don't think anyone's going to watch.
Can't wait.
Oh, and Bob said, what about Bobby Dahlbeck? This guy people would tune in for. Love it.
Listen,
but
real quick, just to piggyback off of Kevin there, but do you think that just because, that the Sox have won, 4 championships, which is just, I don't think anybody ever thought they'd win 4 titles in their. 1 was good enough for me. 4 is just, it's almost unfathomable. But do you think the other thing too do you think the ownership turns people off? All the ads and the sales pitches. I think people are just getting tired of it.
Definitely. Right now you got 12% capacity, and they're trying to sell tickets for what? $300 a pop for a bleacher seat?
No way.
No thanks. For this lineup, no.
Andy, it's funny you say that, actually. I was, talking to my father on their Sunday. I'm one of those few people that still loves the game at my age. I'm 33. He flat out said he refuses to watch them anymore. He was the reason I got into the game. He's 56, refuses to watch them, refuses to even check the standings anymore because of the ownership. So, yeah, I think it's huge.
And, Kevin, I think that's a good point. And I also think them moving the All-Star game out of Georgia, that is really going to backfire on them because people are ticked off. I mean,
that was disgraceful. What does election laws have to do with baseball? Is there anything that, with election laws that has to do with baseball? No, there's not. They shouldn't even be getting involved in this. Let the political people handle that stuff. Why is MLB ownership or the commissioner getting involved with Georgia election laws and moving the game because they don't like something politically? If that continues to be the trend, we'll have a lot of things moved in the upcoming years because I'm sure there's stuff in different states that, people disagree with.
Well, Andy just brought up the CBA. I think that's a huge part of it. The owners are trying to acquiesce to the players. It's got to be that.
The thing is, though, like some of the players were even shocked by this, like some of the big names too. Yeah. And hey, how do you, they revealed that this All-Star game was going to be in Atlanta, I think about 2 years ago. And, you had fans, the few like real fans that you have left, probably really looking forward to going to an All-Star game in their home city. And you rip it away from them like that because you disagree with some election law that Georgia had. this isn't catering to anybody. Like,
no, it really isn't, Tom. And now, who's going to want to really host this thing now? Because it's supposed to be in Los Angeles next year, and they've already said we're not.
Well, it's going to be Colorado. They announced that the other day.
So Colorado's hosting it,
right?
Are they even going to have a full capacity? I mean, you know.
Let's see. Do these people agree with all the election laws in Colorado? Is that why? Like,
what a mess.
So what's it going to come down to when you're choosing future All-Star games? Well, we got to look at your election laws first and see if those are go along with our thoughts about elections.
And then the NBA just played the All-Star game in Atlanta this year.
Right.
This makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Right.
It makes zero sense. And it's just, I'm sure the commissioner has some political affiliation to, the Democrat Party or whatever it is, and he's just trying to cater to them. And that's why he's doing this. And, they do a lot of lobbying for different reasons. But when you take something that, has nothing to do with baseball and you make that issue about baseball, that's a good way to turn off a large part of your fan base.
No doubt.
And other leagues have tried it. Companies have tried it.
Agreed.
And, they struggle because of it. So not a good idea on baseball's part. That's not what you want as a top headline coming from your sport, that you move the All-Star game because you disagreed with some political thing. I think it's a bad look. And I think for a sport that's already really struggling from what it used to be, they're going down the wrong path here.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And again, they have an identity problem. I mean, and who honestly, does the All-Star game really even have the gravitas that it used to have? I remember the All-Star games 30 something years ago. I couldn't wait for it because there was no interleague play, that the networks weren't as big as they are now. You wanted to see those National League players. And that's why the 99 All-Star game, that might be one of the greatest games I've ever seen. That was unbelievable because what Pedro Martinez did, I don't know if you're ever going to see that again. That was absolutely just,
think about the names in that game.
McGuire.
Pedro Martinez, Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire,
Jeter.
Sammy Sosa, Derek Jeter. These were household names that every single casual fan throughout the country knew. Everyone knew them. Yeah. If you go up to the casual fan and you say, name someone on the Angels now, well, they probably won't be able to. Most casual fans, they can't name the guys on other teams like they used to be able to. But everybody knew Clemens. Everybody knew Pedro. Everybody knew McGuire. Everybody knew Bonds and Sosa. It's the names would sell. And that's why the All-Star games used to be huge. You get to see all the best players and these big names all out on one field, and you pretty much knew every single guy playing the game. And now you look at an All-Star game, you don't know anybody.
No, you don't. And Pedro pitched right in the teeth of the steroid era. I mean, that was just completely, I've never seen anything like that. What I saw him doing 99 was just, and everybody was into it. You could tell both benches were up. I mean, the whole crowd's into it. I mean, it was incredible.
I miss the steroid era.
So, Tom, I was just going to say, it speaks to the bigger problem that, the steroid era, might be a bad look, quote unquote, but it was the best era of baseball, maybe since the 70s or whatever. I mean, I was 11 in 99. I can still tell you every member of that 99 Yankees team because they were so good. They were, and that was the thing,
Juggernaut.
Yeah, and maybe the Sox weren't always competitive, but again, that 98 to 99 span, those are the two best years of baseball I've ever watched.
And then you had the home run derby. Hands down street, just mobbed with you could not move.
Exactly, and it just speaks to a popularity problem just in the game in general. And then just going back to that home run derby, I missed the screen on the monster. I don't even care about the monster seats, stuff like that. Again, I sound like I'm 50 and I'm not, but just the game is so different now that no one cares. But again, 98, 99, during the home run chase and all that stuff, you at that point. And there's nothing like it now. Maybe in football.
Really isn't.
pretty much all. If they want to solve all their problems, just bring back the steroids. That's what I say.
Well, listen, hey,
Let the guys juice up, smash some home runs.
we talked about this on the show this past weekend, and absolutely 100% true. Baseball allowed it to happen. They allowed this to happen. Okay, and so it's like when people are saying, "Well, can this guy be in the Hall of Fame?" Well, they allowed it to happen.
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when McGuire broke the record in '98, I distinctly remember my father waking me up to come down and watch it. You know, are there any moments like that in sports really at all anymore?
No.
And
Tom Brady.
how many people were tuning in at Cardinals and Cubs games that year to see if it was going to be McGuire or Sosa? Right. Everybody and their mother was tuning in.
It was unreal. I remember too. That's Kevin is 100% right here. Bonds, Clemens, Pedro, Jeter, A-Rod. When these guys were on TV, you stopped what you were watching to watch. You stopped and watched a Red Sox-Yankees game. You stopped and watched it. You watched a Giants-Dodgers game. You stopped to watch it. You wanted to see what was going to happen. I mean, it was even remember when, like, you know, David Ortiz or Manny Ramirez, if they were rehabbing in Pawtucket, they would cut in. You stopped and watched to see what they were going to do. You don't see that anymore. You don't.
No one cares. There's no player that anyone really cares about.
Right. I would have watched a Cardinals-Reds game to see if McGuire was going to hit a home run. I mean, had no meaning to me, but just the fact. And you notice how everybody in the park would be standing. Nobody was sitting down. I mean,
right.
And the other thing too is, you know, I was thinking, do you guys even know what the home run record now is? Not the season, the number, because I don't. I know it used to be 715, you know, for Hank Aaron. I have no clue anymore. The only record I would still care about and still follow is the 56-game hitting streak. That's all that's left.
That and 400.
Bonds Barry Bonds has the individual season home run record still, right?
I don't think.
Right, and the thing is, I don't even know what that number is.
I think it's 70.
73, I believe.
Like, but in 98, you knew damn well what 61 meant. You know what I mean?
Right.
56-game hitting streak and batting 400. I don't know if you're ever going to see that again. Those are like that's like the cathedral of baseball records. I mean, really.
But I think that's what baseball needs is they need another record chase probably. Otherwise, what else?
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. They as I think it was you mentioned, Kevin, they have an identity problem, or maybe that was Andy. I don't know. It was one.
We both agree on that. So
yeah, they have an identity problem, and they don't have an identity.
Right.
That's their problem. They don't have a guy that everyone cares about. They don't have these big names anymore. These household names, they're gone. There's very few, if any, household names. Maybe Mike Trout's one. You know, maybe Ohtani's starting to become one, but there's not a lot. You know, they need those superstars. They need those big, incredible Hulks like Bonds and McGuire.
Yeah, and here's one more quick point. Can these leagues stop trying to compete with the NFL? Because they're not going to do it. I'm so tired of hearing they're not. The NFL is here. They're all here. They're not going to compete with the NFL. They need to stop doing it. No one can compete with the NFL. They just can't.
No, absolutely not.
And you talk about the big names as well. Maybe it's just a thing of, you know, getting older. I haven't had emotional attachment to an athlete besides Brady since Nomar, I think. And that was, 04? Mm-hmm. He was gone, and I was 13, 14. Like, I just don't know if there's that emotional attachment to athletes around here anymore. And I wonder if it's from the championships. You know, it's just no one has to really root that much harder anymore. And maybe I'm not phrasing it correctly, but it's not there anymore.
Right. I have to agree. I mean, like Paul Pierce was a guy that everybody had an emotional attachment
Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
Kevin Garnett, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, there's a few Bruins, you know, obviously Chara was a lot of people had emotional attachment to. But now it's like, not really. There's very few. I mean, if anybody, the Bruins probably still has a few, you know, like Pasternak and stuff like that.
But see, the thing is, even with them, if they got traded on Monday, I'd be like, oh, okay. You know, like it's not.
I don't
it's
want to
not
lose
the same.
Pasta. I love that guy.
I hope they get rid of Rask, but again, it's just those
Oh,
names and that attachment. They're not there anymore.
Rask has the name for a wrong reason because no one likes him. I think everyone wants him out of here.
I just think
And by the
sports are
way,
changing.
guys, I do want to mention we all failed miserably at college basketball. So we, between the four of us, well, Jared's not here, but between the four of us, we all picked the three other teams in the Final Four, but no one picked the team that actually won, which was Baylor, who beat Gonzaga 86-70. Me and Jared had Gonzaga. Andy, you had UCLA, and they almost beat Gonzaga. That was a great game.
It really was.
Yeah.
And, Kevin had Houston, and then on the girls' side, we all failed miserably. Me, Jared, Kevin all had UConn. Andy had South Carolina, and it ended up being Stanford over Arizona. Stanford winning their first title since 1992. What a game that was, 54-53 final. But Baylor and Stanford, Baylor on the men's side, Stanford on the women's side, your national champions.
It's going to make
some good play in the Final Four, some great games.
Just want to make a real quick point. I think UCLA just took the wind out of Gonzaga's sails because Gonzaga was not used to playing the way UCLA made them play. What a phenomenal game that was too. UCLA just they showed they belonged there, and I was almost ready to text Tom to be like, hey, then I'm
Yeah.
But hey,
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna have to actually buy this guy dinner.
and then go to the women's side and look at Arizona, the run they had. Phenomenal job. But listen, and I just think when Gonzaga played Baylor, I just think they were out of gas. Baylor was a very, very good team, and they kind of won single-handedly, really. And
UCLA gave Gonzaga all they could handle.
They really did. And Arizona women gave Stanford everything they could handle too. I mean, just really saw some great play. If you put some money on UCLA and Arizona, you made out well. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Oh, absolutely. If you went with the spread, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
And Bob said Barry Bonds has the home run record at 762. So
I had no clue what that number was.
Is anyone even close to that anymore? I mean,
No.
You don't see the home runs like you used to.
No.
I mean, guys like Bonds and McGuire and Sosa, they were having high 30s, mid 40s, home runs per season. You don't see that anymore. You see maybe low 30s.
Yeah, no one's even
real
close.
quick, I have a very funny story about that 98 home run chase. So the summer of 98, probably, I think in July, I was 10 and went to Wrigley Field for the first time. Sosa, 0 for 3 with 3 Ks that day. You want to know who did go deep? Mike Piazza for the Mets.
Wow. He was another household name.
Everybody
absolutely. That thing with him and Clemens, I mean, did you just not want to jump through the TV and just you could just feel the tension and the hatred.
Yeah, I love Clemens, so I'm a Clemens guy, for life. If he doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, I stop watching baseball.
I just remember that game of Clemens for the Yankees against Pedro.
The best.
I forget what year it was, but I was watching. It was a classic being ran somewhere. There was a documentary about it. What an
Sunday night game
that was.
Probably
the Sunday
was.
Sunday night 17 strikeouts.
And I think it ended 1-0 or something like that.
Yep.
But it was
Scott Nixon had a home run.
It was one of the best pitchers duel in history.
I saw Pedro and Mussina pitch in Yankee Stadium. Absolutely, you can't even describe it. It was incredible.
That old stadium.
Absolutely.
That old stadium was incredible.
Oh.
I was lucky enough to go there twice. Unbelievable.
Well, I think it was a good conversation considering we just had baseball opening day. I think it was nice to go down some baseball memories. And, I think they get the politics out of it and make some household names. That's how you get the fans back. But obviously it's easier said than done. But I do want to get to these incredible highlights. This past Saturday, Hopkinton took on Medfield. It was an unbelievable game. We have a nice, it's about a 9.5-minute highlight package for you. So sit back, relax, and check out these amazing highlights from this TVO Large matchup between the Hopkinton Hillers and the Medfield Warriors. Kevin, Andy, thanks so much for joining us. Feel free to hang out and watch the highlights and just mute your mics and cameras. But without further ado, here they are. On Saturday, April 3rd, Hillers Varsity Football hosted Medfield in their first home game of the Fall 2 season. The game would be a battle filled with many momentum shifts. Just 90 seconds into action, Medfield senior captain quarterback Ryan Murray connects with senior James Wilder.
Lined up to the left, lone flanker to the right. He'll throw it to the right. He has a target, and it's James Wilder. There he goes. He is off. 2010 touchdown Medfield. A 65-yard touchdown reception, and just like that, it's 6-0 Medfield.
A 65-yard touchdown reception. The extra point makes it 7-0 Medfield. Hopkinton responded in their first offensive drive of the game.
Two receivers either side, takes the snap, rolls to his right, throws upfield, has a target. It is hauled in, and it's going to be a nice gain here for the Hillers. That should be a first down. Brian Keefe once again coming through in the right area code. It's going to be a handoff up the middle and into the end zone for a Hillers touchdown. Cam Mulvaney.
The Hillers marched down the field 55 yards for a touchdown. Senior captain Cam Mulvaney rushed for the 8-yard touchdown, and the extra point tied the game up at 7 apiece. After forcing a Medfield punt, the Hillers offense driving again.
Salyard's going to line it up out of the gun, back to his right, two receivers either side. Takes the snap, rolls to his right, looks upfield, throws upfield, and it's caught by Keefe along the far side, and a nice gain there. That's going to be a first down for the Hillers. Receivers either side. Takes the snap, hands it off, run up the middle, big run up the middle, and a touchdown. Cam Mulvaney, an 11-yard Hillers touchdown.
The Hillers march 69 yards and fed Mulvaney once again for an 11-yard touchdown run to make it a 14-7 game. Medfield, however, quickly responded.
Murray out of the gun, back to his right. Two receivers either side. Takes the snap, looks to his left, airs it out, upfield, has a target, all dead, and there he goes. He's able to escape the tackle, and he'll take it all the way to the house. That was the captain, Ben Leonard.
Quarterback Ryan Murray found senior captain Ben Leonard wide open in the middle of the field. Leonard took the reception to the end zone for a 79-yard touchdown. The first quarter ended tied at 14, with Medfield driving into Hillers territory after forcing a punt.
A little more yards than I thought. Takes the snap, hands it off, and into the end zone he goes. TJ Casey, an 8-yard touchdown run.
A little less than 2 minutes into the second quarter, Medfield capped off a 60-yard touchdown drive with an 8-yard touchdown run by junior TJ Casey and made it a 21-14 game. The rest of the second quarter was filled with great defensive stops on both sides, and the game went into the half with Medfield leading 21-14. In the second half, the Hillers offense got going once again.
Takes the snap. He's going to hand it off, run up the middle. Mulvaney breaking free. Here he goes to the 35, fighting his way to the 40. Big gain there. Cam Mulvaney all the way to the 42-yard line. A 22-yard pickup. Salyard's going to line it up out of the gun. Mulvaney in the backfield. He is going to hand it off. Here goes Mulvaney up the middle, fights his way across the midfield to the 45, works up the far side, 40, 35 to the 30. And he is going to be taken down after a huge gain. Salyard's going to line it up out of the gun. Mulvaney the back to his right. He'll hand it off to Mulvaney, bursting up the middle, breaking a tackle into the end zone.
Senior Cam Mulvaney caps off an 80-yard drive with a 4-yard touchdown run. The extra point tied the game at 21 apiece. Medfield, however, had a very quick response.
And he'll send it sailing, end over end it goes, all the way back to about the 5, and he lost it. It went off his hands. He dropped it. It is picked up. And now we're going to have what looks like a very good return up the near side. James Wilder breaking free across midfield. 40, 30, 20, the 10, and into the end zone. Wow. Unbelievable. On the kickoff, the initial returner bobbled it and then lost the football. And then James Wilder picks it up and takes it about 95 yards to the house.
The extra point made it a 28-21 Medfield lead. Towards the end of the third quarter, the Hillers strung together another touchdown drive.
Receivers spread out to either side. Takes the snap. Here goes Mulvaney working up the middle, breaks a tackle, and he's going to have a very nice run here as he breaks another tackle, and he gets close to the 10. Okay, 15. I stand corrected. A 12-yard gain. It's certainly a little difficult for us to see the yard lines at that end of the field. Salyard's going to roll to his left, throws to the end zone as a target. It's hauled in for a touchdown. A 15-yard touchdown reception by Nicholas Sessi.
And the extra point from sophomore Avery Ravitch made it a 28-28 game. The Hillers possessed the ball for nearly 9 minutes to start the fourth quarter and capped off an 88-yard touchdown drive with a 13-yard keeper from senior quarterback Cole Salyards.
Back to his right, takes the snap, looks to his right, has time, and now he is going to be in some trouble, runs to his left, finds some space, into the end zone he goes! Cole Salyards! He stood in the pocket looking to pass, and then he said, you know what? The whole left side of the field's open. I'm just going to take this myself. A 13-yard touchdown run.
And made it a 35-28 game with the Ravitch extra point. Medfield, however, wasn't done yet.
In the backfield, that's TJ Casey. Two receivers spread out to either side. Takes the snap. Looks up the middle, in trouble, gets rid of it, throws up the middle, has a wide open target, and it's hauled in by Wilder, who will take it to the house. Oh boy, a 51-yard connection between Ryan Murray and James Wilder.
And then Murray hit Wilder again on a risky 2-point conversion to make it a 36-35 Medfield lead. 3 minutes, 42 seconds remaining in the game. Plenty of time for the Hillers.
And about 2 to go for the Hillers. Out of the gun, Salyards rolls to his right, and it is off of the hands of one receiver and into the hands of Champlin. So the Hillers will move the chains. Other side. Takes the snap, rolls to his left, looking upfield, looking to pass, going to take it himself, and he takes it to the house. Touchdown, Hillers!
After a good mix of gains from the running and passing game, quarterback Cole Salyards took care of business again with a 7-yard touchdown run to cap off a 70-yard drive and make it a 42-36 game. Medfield with one last opportunity.
Left, and now he's going to roll to his left, airs it out, up the field, incomplete. Good defensive coverage by Cole Salyards, and time has expired, and the Hopkinton Hillers take the win, 42-36.
The Hillers defense took care of business on the one play Medfield had time for and took the 42-36 win and perhaps the most action-packed game of the season. 3 lead changes took place in the final 3 minutes and 42 seconds of the incredible game. Quarterback Cole Salyards threw for 1 touchdown, a 15-yarder. He also had 2 touchdown runs, a 13 and a 7-yarder, and he had over 100 yards passing. Running back Cam Mulvaney had 3 touchdown runs, an 8-yarder, an 11-yarder, and a 4-yarder, and he had about 175 yards rushing. The Hillers are now 1-2 on the season. And there you have it, the highlights from what was an incredible Hillers victory over Medfield. That's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next Wednesday, 3 p.m. HCAM Sports Talk. Take care. Be well, everyone.
HCAM programming is supported by our viewers
and by WPC Pest Control, a family-owned business for over 35 years.